Sam Klepper was born in 1960 in a working-class neighborhood of Amsterdam. The streets of the city were his first playground, a mix of opportunity and danger. As a boy, he learned quickly that life had rules, but some people got ahead by bending or breaking them. Klepper's earliest lessons came not from school books, but from observation. How men avoided the law, how wealth and fear could be intertwined, and how courage often meant crossing lines others would not. From the start, Klepper was drawn to the dangerous side of life. As a teenager, he got involved in petty theft, breaking into houses, stealing bicycles, and running errands for older boys in his neighborhood. He learned stealth, patience, and timing. He learned to disappear into alleys when the police came, to hide evidence, and to never trust anyone completely. Each small crime taught him control, the art of taking what he wanted without getting caught. By the time he was in his late teens, he had a reputation as someone clever, bold, and not to be underestimated. In the 1980s, Klepper's ambitions expanded. He began working for more established criminals, including Klaas Bruinsma, one of Amsterdam's most notorious drug lords. At first, his tasks were minor, running errands, overseeing slot machines, moving goods, but each success earned him trust and increased responsibility. Klepper was not just another foot soldier, he had vision. He noticed patterns, learned logistics, and understood the value of discretion. These traits would define him for the rest of his life. Klepper soon formed a partnership with John Mieremet. They became known in criminal circles as Spic Span, a nickname earned because their operations were remarkably clean. Bank robberies, arms deals, drug trafficking, whatever they touched, they left little evidence. The police would later describe their work as meticulous, efficient, and almost surgical. But their skill earned enemies too. As Klepper's influence grew, he became a symbol of fear, a man people whispered about in the back streets of Amsterdam, never knowing if his name alone was enough to make him untouchable, or if crossing him would be their last mistake. He joined the Amsterdam chapter of the Hells Angels, becoming a prospect and later a full member. The club provided more than camaraderie. It offered protection, leverage, and a network that extended beyond the city. Through the Hells Angels, Klepper secured alliances, reinforced his reputation, and ensured that anyone considering an attack knew the risk. Yet the higher he climbed, the more precarious his position became. In the underworld, loyalty was often transactional, and paranoia was survival. Klepper's enterprises extended into drugs, arms, and money laundering. His methods were businesslike. He wasn't a brute for its own sake. He understood that organization and discipline were as valuable as intimidation. Still, with visibility came danger. Rival gangs, jealous associates, and foreign dealers scrutinized him. Any misstep could be fatal. One notable conflict involved a drug dealer known only as Akasha. A deal went wrong. Payments were delayed, tempers flared, and mistrust seeped between the groups. Klepper's involvement brought him into direct confrontation with foreign networks, each side weighing violence against caution. It was a subtle war, a high-stakes chess game where miscalculations meant death. Despite his growing notoriety, Klepper occasionally faced the law. Arrests for illegal weapons possession and other charges punctuated his career, but convictions were rare. Evidence was scarce, witnesses frightened, and legal loopholes abundant. The law was never far behind, but Klepper moved like a shadow, always just beyond reach. By the 1990s, Klepper's reputation was cemented. Shootings in broad daylight, attacks near public areas, and other violent incidents signaled the intensifying conflict between rival groups. Klepper survived each encounter, aided by trusted bodyguards, careful planning, and sheer nerve. His presence became synonymous with danger, a man whose calm demeanor masked the capacity for sudden violence. The streets whispered his name, and even law enforcement approached his legend cautiously, aware that fear was as much a tool for Klepper as any weapon. Despite the outward confidence, Klepper's life was not without cracks. Isolation grew as his fame in the criminal world expanded. Paranoia seeped in. Friends turned into potential threats. Some allies, once loyal, began seeking ways to protect themselves or gain advantage at his expense. Betrayal in the underworld was common, and Klepper knew that even the smallest oversight could lead to catastrophe. Part of his notoriety stemmed from involvement in violent acts, murders, threats, and orchestrated attacks. Each act was a reminder. Klepper commanded power, but also lived with constant risk. Dutch law enforcement pieced together fragments of evidence, building a picture of a man who combined criminal ingenuity with ruthless pragmatism. But witnesses remained silent, fearful of retaliation. Klepper used this silence as a shield, protecting both himself and the empire he had built. His partnership with Mieremet amplified both opportunity and danger. Together, they coordinated robberies, drug operations, and money movement, staying steps ahead of authorities. Their precision became legendary. But in the shadows of success, each move carried the weight of possible downfall. The culmination of Klepper's life of crime came on a rain-soaked October day. On the 10th of October 2000, he was standing outside his Amsterdam apartment with his Serbian bodyguard. The city moved on around him, oblivious to the storm approaching. Then it happened. A masked assassin emerged, wielding a submachine gun. In moments, bullets tore through the air. Klepper's bodyguard fired back, a desperate attempt to protect his employer. Innocent bystanders were caught in the crossfire. Chaos erupted on the streets. Klepper did not escape. The assassin struck with lethal precision. His life, built on daring, strategy, and fear, ended in a storm of gunfire. The streets of Amsterdam would never forget that day. The shooting was public, violent, and a stark reminder that in his world, no one was untouchable. The funeral that followed was immense, befitting a man whose life had been both admired and feared. Members of the Hells Angels, criminals from across Europe, and those who had once worked with or against him gathered. Respect mingled with fear. Stories were told of his precision, his cunning, and the violence he had orchestrated. Klepper had become more than a man. He was a legend, part of Amsterdam's criminal mythology. Investigations later revealed that Willem Holleeder had ordered Klepper's murder. Holleeder, a figure intertwined with the city's darkest events, was eventually convicted in 2019 for orchestrating multiple murders, including Klepper's. The network of betrayal and ambition that led to his death highlighted the precariousness of power in the criminal world. Loyalty was fleeting, and survival depended on both cunning and fear. Klepper's death left a void. Territories shifted. Associates scrambled for control. Rival gangs attempted to seize the wealth and influence he had accumulated. For the public, the murder brought fear of escalating violence in streets once considered safe. Innocent people had witnessed the collision of criminal worlds, and the media coverage magnified both horror and fascination. After his death, stories about Klepper spread, some factual, others exaggerated. He became a figure in documentaries and crime narratives, a symbol of the clean, precise, untouchable criminal. Yet even as his legend grew, questions remained. What of the money he controlled? Which crimes remained unsolved? How many of his enemies truly feared him, and how many had merely survived him? Klepper's legacy influenced both law enforcement and criminal circles. Police tightened surveillance, improved witness protection, and studied networks with renewed urgency. Criminals tried to emulate his discipline and planning, but few matched his combination of caution and ruthlessness. In life, Klepper had balanced violence and business acumen, fear and precision. He had shown that power in the underworld required strategy as much as strength. His death proved the fragility of even the most feared figures. One misstep, one betrayal, could end it all. Sam Klepper remains a figure of fascination, both feared and admired. His life demonstrated the intersections of ambition, crime, and consequence. In Amsterdam, his name echoes through alleys and courtrooms, documentaries and whispers, a reminder that the line between control and chaos, between life and death, is thin, and that no amount of planning can fully protect a man from the consequences of the world he chooses to inhabit.